Good evening and welcome to the Refreshing Word. My name is Shirley Grooms, and I'm here just to lay down the foundation for a testimony that you're about to hear. The testimony is coming from my nephew, Sean Ware, who was scheduled for surgery on June the 30th of this year. We weren't so sure of the severity of his case, but we realized after that it was a very serious surgery. Um, the night of our Bible study, just before he went in for surgery, the Bible study class and some family members were on the Zoom call, and we prayed for him. And when we prayed, we believed that God was going to heal him. And we have received the next day that he did was up and walking, really. And so these testimonies that you're hearing from the church is after we have been on a 50-day prayer venture. And what we really wanted you to get from this particular testimony is that God is still healing. He's still working miracles. He's still doing marvelous things. And if there's anyone who is listening at this particular testimony and you're going through a crisis, a medical condition, or anything that you really need the God to do, believe that if he did it for Sean, that he will do it for you. And we want you always to know that you can call us and we will definitely pray for you. There's an email link and a phone number at the conclusion of Sean's testimony. Write it down and give us a call if you need us. Just listen to this testimony and hear what God has really done for this young man. Thank you so much for tuning in, and be blessed.
8 months ago, October, I went to my doctor and trying to get a number of appointments out of the way. One was to see my cardiologist, only because I hadn't seen him in about 4 or 5 years. And at that time, I had minor blockages, and they did a angioplasty and cleared the blockages. And after about a year of follow-up, I was good to go. So I went back in October, like I said, and wanted to get a follow-up. So end of the year was kind of hectic for me and my family. We purchased a new home. We had to get out of our old house and into our new one. So I wasn't able to get to my cardiologist appointment until about March. In March, I saw the cardiologist, and he scheduled me for a PET scan and a stress test. He came, then I had to go back and get the results. And then he said, "Well, I want to do another test." So in April, I went home to see my mother. So we put that off until the last week in April because I was going to be out of town for a while. So I saw him the week of my birthday. My birthday was on a Monday. Saw him on a Friday. Or actually, they did the procedure on Friday. From that appointment, well, I'm sorry, let me go back. So out of the PET scan, he said, "Well, I want to do the angiograph because your heart was a little dense. I need to get some more information." So from the PET scan, we did the angioplasty. Coming out of the angioplasty, which was the end of April, he came back and said that heart has 3 major arteries, and one was 70, and I don't remember the order, but one was 70% blocked, one was 90% blocked, and one was 100% blocked.
Oh.
And of those 3, they call one the widowmaker, because if that one gets blocked, they usually don't have and you wind up having a heart attack. They usually don't have the opportunity to revive you. So that's appropriate. Well, that's the name for it. So from there, he said, I'm going to refer you to the cardiothoracic surgeon. And I didn't get in to see the surgeon until Memorial Day ish. And the cardiologist and the surgeon basically got together, and then they said, well, no, you don't have 3 blockages, you have 5 blockages. Actually, you have 7, but we're not worried about 2 of them. So you've got 5 blockages that we need to take care of. So going through the process, he explained that they're going to take a vein out of your, from either your arm or your leg, and use that vein to bypass those blockages. So then we scheduled the surgery for the 30th of June. So we had the surgery on the 30th. Some of you know that next day on July 1st, I had the surgery. I went in about 5:30 in the morning. By 2 o'clock, I was out in ICU, and they woke me up about I don't know, 4 or 6 o'clock, something like that. And I don't remember much. Just going into the operating room. The nurse and the team were, doing all the things that they had to do. They may have talked to me for about 2-3 minutes, and then it was nighty night. And the next thing I remember, I was listening to my wife and my daughter in the recovery room. Well, I wasn't really listening; it was kind of in and out. But the next day, they had me up and around, and I was actually, doing laps around the nursing station in ICU. That was Saturday the 1st, and from there, in ICU for Saturday and Sunday. Sunday night, they moved me to what they call a step-down unit, which is not as intensive care, and that's where I spent the next 4 to 5 days in the hospital. And was just recovering at that point. So they made probably about a 12-inch incision in the middle of my chest, right under your, I guess, my clavicle, down to about just short of my breast. And then they have this, what they call it, vacuum. Basically, it's supposed to seal up the wound, and basically it's supposed to seal up the wound. And I also had 3 chest tubes to remove any bodily fluids that would build up. Post-surgery day 4, they removed the test tubes, and then at that point, it's just I was just trying to heal at that point. So in the step down unit, I had to do a lot of walking to do a lot of walking in order to build my strength, and also a lot of breathing in a and a machine called a spirometer, which is supposed to inflate your lungs, excuse me, to make sure that you don't get pneumonia, which is a complication. Um, so for the most part, the the days were okay, but I for some reason at night I had a problem sleeping, and the first couple of nights I couldn't sleep uh, laying down. Had to sleep in a chair. So the I don't know how to explain it, but the the pain of lying down was just um, too much for me to take. So for the most part, slept in a chair for uh, those 2 or 3 days. Um, but at night, for some reason, I would have trouble breathing, and um, I just couldn't explain it. And I was experiencing some kind of at least one of the nurse practitioners kind of referred it to. I referred to it as a spasm, but it she was she said that it was the uh, my body's reaction to being from my sternum being cut open, and the nerves were just firing at all different types of ways because they had never experienced that kind of trauma before. Um, so I guess it was Wednesday. They were talking about trying to uh, figure out when they were going to cut me loose, and because I think that was the first day that the first day they started talking about releasing me, and for some reason I just got these unbearable headaches, um, and they give you a pillow in the shape of a heart that you're supposed to hug onto when you're actually doing anything, when you're getting up, when you're sitting down, because they don't want you to stress the muscles in the chest and possibly split the work that they did, or affect the work that they did. So, but they tell you to cough, and the reason why they tell you to cough is, and also because they don't want you're supposed to cough up any phlegm that you might have in your chest, so you don't get pneumonia. And as much as I wanted to, cough, it would give me uh, a headache. So I kind of refrained from coughing because I didn't want to deal with the headache. So I had a headache for uh, 2 or 3 days, and because the first day the doctor said, "Well, we're not going to release you if you have a headache," and the only medicine that would help were IV meds. But then they said, "Well, we can't. Some meds we can't give you because they're only for post ICU, and then some meds we can't give you because, well, we can't send you home if there's nothing that we can give you in tablet form through a pharmacy." So um, uh, finally, after talking to Joanne, my wife, uh, on Friday the 7th, we just said, okay, we're just gonna uh, go home, and they released me on the 7th. So got home Friday. Uh, First couple of days, not too bad, moving around the house. Um, but towards Wednesday of the next week, um, I started experiencing some breathing problems, kind of sort of like in the hospital, and tried to just deal with it. And then we went back on the after speaking to the uh, a nurse friend of ours, she suggested we go back to the hospital. So on Friday afternoon, the 14th, we went back to the hospital and did another chest X-ray, and they said, "Well, you have a little fluid on your lungs, so we're going to give you a diuretic so that you can uh, pass all of this fluid." So spent about 6 hours in the ER, and my nurse friend, uh, she said, "Well, I want you to go in and then ask for a certain amount of tests." And because she's in New York, uh, where I'm originally born and raised, and she said, she didn't have access to my records, but she's a cardiac care nurse, so she knows what to look for. So she was saying, so ask for uh, a CT with contrast, so because we need to rule out a pulmonary embolism, which is a blood clot. So we eliminated the big things so we can kind of narrow down what's going on and figure out, get to, uh, the most likely cause. So got back in the ER and asked the doctor to run those tests, and uh, um, like I said, they did a chest X-ray, figured out it was the fluid, and said, "Okay, we'll just send you home with a diuretic." And uh, since then, uh, I've been on the upside of healing. Um, my so I after that point, uh, the last week in July, I think it was on the 27th, we saw my cardiologist, someone from my cardiologist team, and um, he gave us the all clear. Well, I should say they were done with us because at that point, his job was done. The week before, I saw my cardiologist, and at that point, he was just saying that I looked good from the last time he saw me, and um, uh, from the beginning of May until now, I've lost right around 31 pounds. Um, I'm down to two 220, which is I hadn't seen that in probably about 10 years. Um, and the cardiologist said, he checked the wounds, said it was healing nicely, and basically said, "Okay, kick me loose and see you in 6 months." Um, so that's the background on uh, the that's the background on my surgery. Um, but it doesn't necessarily it doesn't end there. Um, so I started thinking about um, the last 8 years from my last the first time I saw the cardiologist up until the surgery. And when I say that I don't feel I don't feel any different than I did 6 weeks, 6 months before they told me I had a blockage. Um, well, I should say I just don't feel any different than before I had the surgery, before they told me I had the blockages. Um, but during my during my cardiologist in my most recent before the surgery, before they did the angioplasty, my cardiologist asked me, so what brings you in? And uh, I told him, well, it's been a while since since my last angioplasty, and I just wanted to see where I was at. And you know, after he gave me the results, I saw him for a follow up, and he says, we usually don't handle uh, these situations, or we usually don't come by these situations where the patient walks in and schedules his own appointment. Usually, it's in the ER where the patient has had a heart attack. And like I said before, with what I was walking around with pre-surgery, it's nothing but the grace of God that I'm still here. To not have any, and the first time I talked to my nurse friend, uh, she basically asked me the same thing. Well, why did you go see the cardiologist? And then, I told her it's just been a minute. And uh, she kind of went into detail as far as if you had any palpitations or any pains, chest pain, stuff like that, you should have been experiencing some of those symptoms. And those are the things that people usually ignore, and then they have a heart attack or something like that. But uh, I was blessed not to have to experience anything like that. And it's and At the present moment, my for the last 6 years, no, 7 years. No, excuse me. Yeah, 7 years. For the last 7 years, uh, my actual job has been 300 miles away from where I live in Tucson, and I lived up there. Had an apartment up there where I go to work, and I would come down to Tucson to see my family. Um, and so I was basically living by myself. And the fact that he kept me, um, that I didn't have a heart attack driving, I can tell you probably uh, 300 times in the 8 years or more, um, or for the weeks and months that I was by myself, um, or just at any given point that uh, I didn't have to know that experience of having a heart attack is uh, to figure out that there was something wrong with me is nothing short of a personal miracle for me. Um, uh, but I know that it it didn't come without um, about about 3 years ago. My wife also works for the Forest Service here in Tucson, so we work for the same agency, just geographically separated. We both went to the same class, which is a rarity. She at the end of the class, they we have to get up and kind of tell the class what you learned, things that we're looking forward to, things that you want. And in her uh, uh, in her speech, she she said that at that point she wanted me to come home, and uh, the job was nice, but it was uh, time to time to get back home, which was always the plan, but it just never worked out that way. Um, um, so uh, and over the years, my mother has whenever the situation would come up, I'd apply for certain things, some things I just didn't get, and my mother would tell me that it's are you looking and what can you do, and uh, uh, she would also say that it's time to get back home. Um, so through after uh, Joanna uh, Joanne and I talked about it, and after I get through my leave from my recovery, uh, I'm not going back to my present position. I'm be looking for something else. Um, So at so not only is this a praise report for my health, because it doesn't seem like it was, you know, the time is, gone rather quickly. But um, it's you know the lesson learned, um, or lessons learned. Um, uh, wow. God will God will keep you because by uh, by all right, I should not be talking to you today. And uh, it was the cardiologist and the surgeon, they did their part, and the nursing staff did their part. And I am ever so grateful to them. But uh, it's and I know this particular group is not necessarily just in Maryland, um, but I know I've had saints in California, this group in Maryland, in Florida, New York, praying for me. So first, I'd like to say thank you for your prayers. Um, and I know, at least I don't think, looking at the participants, I don't think she's here, but I know the woman that said we were family. I think she's in Pittsburgh or Pennsylvania. Um, before I think actually 6 weeks ago tonight, before you guys prayed for me, I had never seen or met her. Um, but just because uh, because of this group, um, the the prayers went up and they were heard, and um, um, I'm just thankful that everyone here in the group, uh, and like I said, those others, uh, that he heard your prayers and guided the surgeon's hand and kept me through all parts of this testimony. Um, I sometimes you never know how blessed you are until you you go through something, and uh, and I'm just grateful that I have family and friends that know him, and uh, I'm just ever so thankful.